Hey boys and girls, it's KnightStalker here. Welcome along today to my video on the preview for Season 9. What's going to be upcoming in Conqueror's Blade for the next 3 months or so. Check it out. Today we're going to go through a whole bunch of things. Did some PTR testing today, did some things on the units, tried out some of the new runes and things like that. We'll go over all of that. The thing I want to start with here today is definitely this up here. The update log, because there's some things in here I hope you haven't missed, but we're just going to go over it real fast, a couple of minutes to make sure that you're up with the play on what's going on. So I'm not going to waste time on all the fluff. You're welcome to go on Steam or to the My Games site themselves to flesh yourselves out. So we won't cover the units because we will do that later on. Something I want to talk to you about though is the hero balance changes. All right. After receiving feedback and analysing data, it's turned out Musket's too powerful. Who would have known? All right. So they're going to nerf it a bit. And by a bit, I mean a lot. It's great. So the Caltrops slow again has been reduced by 50%. It was about 50% already, so you can expect it to be about 1/4 speed reduction, and that is very significant. This was one of the most frustrating things for players. The grenade's damage radius has been reduced by about, I don't know, 3 millimeters. Hardly worth mentioning. Here is something that is important though, choke type skills. So the Poleaxe, Rough Justice, the Dual Blades Mark for Death, and the Pikes, somewhere here, Sky Dragon Final Phases. So what you're probably familiar with is people would grab you with the Rough Justice, immediately cancel it, roll it behind you and back to Corbin. No, not anymore. If you cancel the animation, you will lose the animation straight away. So if they Rough Justice you, stop to roll behind you, you'll immediately fall to the ground and stand up again. So that is going to be a lot better, because those dual blades lurking around, they're not just going to mark for death, jump backwards, double butterfly, slash you over the top as well. It's going to be a lot harder for those particular heroes to do those big chain attacks. Generally speaking, blunt skill damages is being nerfed, and this could not come faster. It's been a problem for a while. The only thing they haven't really addressed here is the overpowered nature of the maul. Go figure. Huh? I don't know. So anyway, what they've realised is that a lot of the blunt damage skills scale really well with some of the runes and some of the upgrades that you can put on your heroes now. And so they've realised that this is happening, and they're going to nerf it. So here is the affected skills. Things like the old Glaive's Flying Reaper has gone from being an absolute like one shot of death to being survivable, shall we say. There's things like the Short Sword's Thunderstruck, which I didn't ever think was much of an issue, but there it is. The Black Powder Grenade, for example, its scaling is taken from about 710% down to under 500, and that's important. I don't think anyone minds about Jenga, and I don't. Blade Breaker Shields is something that you see often as well. So, hero versus hero damage changes. So what they've noticed is that the survivability hasn't been where they want to be. They want the fights to be longer, and it would appear more unit-based. So what they're going to do is reduce the damage that some units do to heroes. So, for example, Golden Era Cavalry will do 15% less damage, Firearm Infantry less 25%, Parvi's Crossbowmen specifically reduced by 25%, that's well overdue. The Berserkers will do 30% less damage to a hero, which, interesting. I think that was needed too. Here's ones that I don't quite agree with. Alp Halberdiers, Prefecture Pikemen, and Ironcap Swordsmen. So that's Langenecks, depending on what server you're on. These 3 units here are now non-viable. I'm pretty sure that these are no longer usable because they're reducing the charge damage against heroes, and that is pretty much all anybody ever took these units for. So if you're still using those units, you might want to reconsider. We'll see once it all comes out in the wash, right? We'll see actually what happens in playtesting. We will see what happens in real world battles, but I would say that those ones are on the way out. Territory war changes. There are a ton of territory war changes. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, I don't play territory war. I'm not interested in the stress and the politics, and I'm not about to start now with territory war. So if you want to keep up on the territory war changes, please go and have a look at that yourself. Where are we up to now? Blah 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 blah. Right, here we go. No, that's still blah blah blah. Hero specialization changes. Right, here is some of the things that are going to affect you in your inventory. Skill pages are gone now, and you're going to use the mastery points to upgrade your what they call victory skills here. See up here, so victory skills, but we call them alts out in here in the real world. So any skill pages that you've already spent, you're going to get refunded, and there's going to be an activity. So hit the O key, and you'll be able to change them for the attire chests, the mastery points, bronze coins, unit medals, or honor. If you're relatively new to the game, let me give you a pro tip. Honor is the hardest one to get out of all of those. I've been playing for a couple of years now. I'm not even close to completing the tech tree honor nodes. Just not even remotely close. It is by far the hardest one to get. Of course, if you need the mastery points to get your alts, it goes without saying that those are more important. So if you haven't changed them all in by the end of the event, you'll just be given mastery points instead of having the option. Unit tree changes. They're going to make some changes to the way that some of the nodes work. For example, these two skills here are going to give these two units here extra block. We'll talk a little bit later on in this document about how that will actually transpire within the nodes of the tech tree as well. Some item changes. The things like the personal history and the unit training plan, those are ones that reset your character stats and the one that reset your unit veterancy. They've both gone now. Poof, gone, and instead you're going to get a training missive which does both. So it's only going to take up one slot in your inventory, and you will no longer need to have different ones for those. I imagine we'll be seeing more of those as rewards in the game too. And they'll be sent to your mailbox, so that's important. Don't expect them to be just sitting in your inventory. Some of the weekly challenges, a lot of people were giving feedback that they were too hard, and they come in 3 tiers, so they're going to take one of the hard ones out and they're going to put in an easy one again, which will mean that you actually get less reward up the track, the season track, but at the same time you'll actually be able to complete more of them. Hero equipment and weapon schematic changes. So they're going to simplify this. Basically, in a nutshell, they're going to take all of the blue schematics and make them one blue schematic. They're going to take all of the purple schematics for heroes, make them one purple schematic. All of the horse attire, horse armor schematics, purple ones, make them one. And there's a little table a little bit later on. There is a new menu which we'll be covering soon about how to put attires on your hero and your units, and we'll cover that off when we go through the new changes. Battle Pass, there's nothing new here, it's exactly the same as previous seasons. Seasonal store, there are some things that are not going to be traded there anymore. Rare armor selection crate, tree ties, powdered silver, the 10 battle hero card, the 10 battle unit card, and the doctrine water are gone now. Well, they're not gone, they're just not available on the seasonal store track to use for your blades, right? Instead, you're going to get a rare armor selection crate, which is the replacement one for the rare armor selection. You're going to get the tree ties. Apparently we can still get powdered water and silver doctrine water. No, it's from the Heroes Road and Conqueror's Path. My mistake. Campaign information. So this is no different to any other season. As weeks go by, there are more things to do in the open world. No different to previous seasons. Seasonal rune changes. Again, there's no difference between this one and previous seasons. They're going to take some from the last couple of seasons where we've had runes. They're actually a relatively new thing in the game. And they're going to take the ones that work best and bring them across to the new Tyranny season. There are lots that are not going to be back, such as people were asking about the weapon dance rune for Poleaxe. Man, that thing was ridiculously overpowered, and I don't think we're ever going to see that back. They were quite specific to say that they're toning down the runes this season, which is really good to hear because some of them were quite ridiculous. Seasonal unit challenges, there is no difference whatsoever there to the new units. You get them exactly the same way. They're not upgrades this season, they're new units. The only thing that you might want to be interested in is that the Shinji Grenadiers, who are basically tercios with a bomb, you don't have to do challenges to unlock them. You can spend 25,000 honor instead. I recommend to you that you do the challenges because that 25,000 honor is far harder to get. So Fame is working exactly the same. That's where you take your junk items or the seasonal special items that give you Fame points. You take them there, and you've got up to 25,000 points will get you another attire and things like that. But along the way, there's doctrines, there's Attires, there's crates and things like that. That's not changing this season. It's the same as the last 3 or 4, whatever it is we've had them now. Let's have a look. We'll get more of these trophies, box of trophies and pile of trophies. Now those are what's replacing currently the armor scraps and things like that. The merging of schematics is what I was talking about before. See, all uncommon armor schematics will be uncommon armor schematic. All of the rare armor will be a rare armor schematic. All of the purple weapon doctrine, not doctrines, purple weapon schematics will just all come from one, and that just narrows down the amount of junk in your inventory, especially when you're a veteran player who's been playing for a while, and so on and so on. All of the weapons, legendary weapons, which I've never seen. I've never seen a legendary schematic in all my time. So here's those unit tree and node changes that I was telling you about. You'll see that I'll just read the first three, and they're all pretty much the same. You don't need the close order drill to be requisite for halberdier sergeants. Not that you should be getting halberdier sergeants. They're currently a dreadfully terrible unit. Weighted pikes is no longer a prerequisite node for Imperial Pike Guard. Cavalry Command will no longer be a prerequisite for the Iron Reapers. So what this is doing now is it's taking out nodes that had no purpose, and often they had no bonus. Some of them had no bonus whatsoever, so you're spending the honour for no good purpose. And I envision that this is something that they're trying to do to speed people through the honour tree, to catch new players up to veteran players, because especially a year or 2 years ago, it was just impossible for new players to catch up. And they've done some great job lately, and some excellent work on allowing new players to catch up and be competitive with veteran players relatively quickly. Relatively quickly means 3 to 6 months. All the same for the range. Some of the nodes are removed or moved. Some of the cavalry nodes are removed. Same with chivalric and rattan. So that is my quick overview. And we're going to move now into the nice visuals from the PTR server. Let's go. Alright, here we are in the PTR server. Brand new today. So, first thing I want to show you is probably the Battle Pass. And as you can see, it's well and truly fleshed out already because we've been doing this today. You'll get lots of rewards. The most important ones are, it says at level 1, you'll get the attire, the undefeated attire, which I'll show you those soon. I'll just touch on some of these. I won't go through the whole lot. At level 25, you're going to get yourself a banner and a Season 9 avatar. Next one up is at level 50. You're going to get yourself the unit skin for this particular season. And it's quite cool. You look like just a ragtag bandit. It's tattered henchman attire. Very nice. At level 70, you'll get the horse skin, which I will show you again in a moment, and you'll get this nice tyrant weapon chest as well, which will give you one of the weapon skin options for the season. You can buy more up here in the seasonal store. And then all the way up to level 100, you will get the Tyrant Commander's attire. Again, I'll show you soon, and you'll get yourself 400 blades. Real nice. And you get all sorts of goodies along the way. Some of this one here, he's like, no, it's great. I'll show you very soon. It's actually very fantastic. I really like this particular emote, and I'm going to be using it a lot. KnightStalker disapproves. Weekly challenges, as we said, are all the same. Season challenges for this one. Got the Outriders. Nice and easy, nice and simple. X-Raiders, same as previous seasons, nice and easy, nice and simple. Shinji Grenadiers. Not quite the same as other seasons, because you can also unlock it using 25,000 honour if you just happen to have 25,000 honour lying around ready to spend. Who does? But also you can do the challenges to unlock. Very much the same. The campaigns will be just like every other season. Just like that. Seasonal runes I will cover after we do this, and the seasonal store. Here is all the weapon skin options for you. There's holes in your shield, which I'm not sure I'm kind of into, but actually generally it looks pretty darn cool. Right? Here's your short sword. Here's your glaive. Poleaxe. It's very Mad Max, isn't it? Very Mad Max. We need a Sophonorii riding on top of a motorized carriage somewhere. Spear of Chaos. It's very beautiful. Makeshift Nodachi. It's a big chunk of steel attached to a piece of wood. That's great. A feral pike. A ramshackle musket. Look at this thing. It looks like something from 40k Orcs or like Necromunda. Here's your bow. Very, very pretty. It's got blades on it. This one is actually cooler, I think. Much nicer look. Here's your dual blades, your toothpick and a spoon. Here is your, I don't know, noob hammer. It's got spikes on it. It's nice. Here we go. There is the unit attire. Very Outlander, sort of raiderish look. You know, they're obviously very poor stitching together what leather and things they have. Rather nice looking. Here's your horsey for the season. Quite like this. Quite like this attire. And then, of course, you're just going to go into the previous season's purchases that you can do. This one here is actually quite nice. I don't know if you've seen this one, but on foot they look pretty cool. Much cooler than on here. If you look back at my videos, I put this on my prefecture guard. This here, worth a look. Worth a look. Without the helmet, it looks very Romanesque, and you can use some of the other helmets. You'll see the rear armor schematic has been changed, and well, these are still here, but apparently they're not going to be in the release version. Something important, not everything in this video will make it to the final release video, and there may be some things that actually aren't here yet. So, let's move on to our next segment. Okay, so one of the new things that's changing this season is you're going to get this here, Personalize. And this is now how you change your attires and put on the goodies that you're going to be successful in taking throughout the season. By the way, this is the level 1 suit. I don't know how you feel about it. I was talking with Unfit Chaos today. We were doing some unit testing. You'll see later in the video. And he's not into it, Matt, but I think it's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. How do you get things into the game that are non-historical without being too far removed, right? Bandits. Bandits are a great way to get something like that in, to give you a bit of license, carte blanche, to be a bit more stylish, because bandits, they don't have a uniform, right? But it's very like Fallout 4 Raiders with the all the sticky outy bits of metal and things like that. Anyway, here is the Tyrant Commander's attire. Can you please not turn anymore? There we go. So that's him. This is the level 100 armor. And, you know, you can choose individual pieces of it if you like. Remove, equip, however you want to throw it. And this is just how all of these new things work. Okay, so don't get too confused by that. We had some people asking on the PTR server, some content creators going, oh my goodness, how do I put my attire on? But that's how you do it right there. Same with your horse and a horse. You want standard saddle, you can do that if you so wish. The emotes, the new emotes. You. Naughty, naughty, naughty. It's amazing. I'm going to do that again. Ready? You. KnightStalker disapproves. And this is the other one, Sneak. Which looks to me like he's lost a contact lens or something. Fun. Anyway, let's move on to some more information. Okay, here we are in the rune section. So this rune section, you're going to see a lot of familiar stuff. It seems to be that they've taken the runes that have been performing as they expected to through the last couple of seasons. As you probably know, runes are relatively new to the game. And they've excluded ones that appear to be rather overpowered. Except Maul. Go figure. Go figure. So here we go. I'm going to flick through these without any particular hurry. And you can see for yourself. Hit the pause button if you want to see more of them. I can't spend all day flicking through these because the video will be long and exceptionally boring. I already don't like having to do this, but how else am I going to convince you that runes still exist unless we actually go ahead and do this? I quite like how they've taken out all of the overpowered ones. Or most of the overpowered ones, and they've left the ones that have good utility. And the idea of these, as they've stated, is to make 2 long swords not the same, or 2 short bows not the same. So when you're fighting a short bow, you don't know exactly what sort of skills they're going to have, what sort of runes, and that makes it a little bit more flexible, a bit of variety in the game. I think the reality really is that overwhelmingly certain weapons will take certain choices, right? There will be some small variations within people's personal discretion of how they want to tweak their character, but all of the main runes, really everyone's going to be using them, right? There's no longsword player that's not going to be using the damage reduction on your heal. There's not going to be any mauls that are not using the hey, have some free stamina thing going on. So as you can see, most of them are completely familiar. Although I did notice that a lot of the wording from the previous season, where we had some runes that had the incorrect text, that appears to be fixed now, which is really good, because a lot of people thought that they were getting an extra 30 defense for all for all their defenses, when in fact they were getting an extra 30 armor penetration, which is a very different story, as you can imagine. So that's all the runes. Let's move on. So I want to talk to you about leadership values on units. Something that we haven't mentioned so far is that this season a lot of units, particularly gold tier units, have had their leadership cost reduced from between 5 and 30. So let's just cover a little bit of that really fast. We'll go here. Let's just remove that so we've got all the options available. All right, as you can see, Silidars have come down 30 points. And you can move all the way through, and you'll see that some have been reduced in cost. Something else we haven't actually talked about yet is that two of the tier 5 cavalry, namely the Keshigs and the Cataphract Lancers, I believe it is, they're getting buffs this season. So 2 units who have become utterly irrelevant should be getting a little bit more love. And they said they're going to fine tune it a little bit, then a little bit, and a little bit. So we're not going to get a massive change all at once and take overpowered Laos Rangers into super mega overpowered Laos Rangers like they did one time. There was that time that happened. Do you remember that time? And instead they're going to give them little incremental changes to tweak them into points that matter. And you can see that again. Some of these units here have now got different points values, leadership values. Let's talk about some of the new units. So, the very first new unit we want to talk about is the Javcav, aka Elite Outriders. So, these boys are going to be fantastic in field battles. Some of the people that we were talking to today think they might be useful in territory wars. I don't know. I don't play territory wars, but they're a little bit fragile. But they've got this new thing that we'll show you in the unit testing, where they're going to hurl this giant spear here, and it's going to explode, and it causes massive CC. And that is very useful. This unit can frontally charge Fortebrachios if they throw their javelins first and you time it correctly. Just to give you some idea. And they fully outclass things like bow riders, as you might expect with the 50 or 60 leadership difference between them. But their primary weapon is this. So I'll quickly just skip through the veterancy nodes for you. Again, these aren't necessarily the final product, but if you want to pause, go for it. I won't just waste time by talking about every single one. Should we do the next unit? Oh, we might as well have a look here. Unreliable weapons. Sometimes their explosive throwy spear things actually don't explode. It's a very small percentage from what I've observed, but some of them don't go bang. And that's just, I guess, because you're a scummy bandit and all you've got is, I don't know, a Molotov cocktail strapped to a stick. They're going to get the usual leadership discount within the season that they're released. So Outriders are not afraid of taking battle to the enemy and will use melee attacks when close. Every 5 seconds they will unleash an explosive attack and get energized for 3 seconds, greatly increasing their movement speed. So what that means is they can use their throw, they get in, they blow stuff up, and then they get out again. And they're actually relatively good at this, which is quite surprising for a light cavalry. The testers that I was working with today found it a little bit quite inspiring, really. And Outriders can plunder the enemy arms in battle to replenish their own ammunition. So when you fight and kill things, particularly in melee, I believe it is, again, it's day one, cut me some slack, they will actually replenish their ammunition. And these guys have a lot of ammunition. This is something, when we were testing them today, we found is that they just got spears for years. So I guess you could call it spears for years. And they can just keep pummeling and pummeling and pummeling. And of course, when they finally eventually do run out, they're a very fast unit back to the supply. Here you go. Here is some veterancy stats for the Elite Outriders. Without further ado, let's go to what is actually predicted to be, from the people I spoke to today, the star of the season. The Elite X-Rady boys. I'll probably just take off the skin if we've got one on there at all. Maybe not. We'll work that out later. Why are this unit primed to be the star of the season? So the Shinji Grenadiers are, they're good, first of all, but they're very vanilla. They're essentially your bog standard gunner, and they've got 2 grenades they can throw before they have to go back and resupply, which makes them good but not interesting, if that makes sense. Which is fine, because it's actually a tech tree unit, right? So, cool, I understand. But these guys are very unique, and they're a lot more fun. I mean, a lot more fun. Where the Outriders need huge micro, and the Shinji Grenadiers need almost no micro, these guys, you can do both. We found that both top and bottom line appear to be viable, and both do slightly different things. So again, let's just flip through those real quick. Very nice. And here's your veterancy skills here. Did I get that one long enough for you to see? So this unit smashes pretty much everything. If you remember how Berserkers first came out, they were like, oh my god, what am I going to do? Until people got used to them and some counters started coming around. That's what these guys are about. They are extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. Okay, we found that they beat just about everything. Things that we found they didn't beat were Palace Guard, Modal, Silidars, Shield Maidens, and that's about it. Now, when you consider those 4 units that we've tested, there'll be others, I'm sure, but everything else they beat, right? And that includes like 40s from the front, because of the way their abilities work. And we'll show you that in the testing, which comes later. But these guys are extremely powerful. Just great. And they're going to probably be the stars of the whole season for the reasons we've just explained. So, when using double axe, damage is increased for 6 seconds. The more times the unit takes damage during a short period, the stronger the effect. So basically that's when you're getting beaten on in close combat. So what? You just pull out an axe, pull out another axe, and you just sort of chuck them at point blank range, and oh man, the damage is outrageous. I'll show you that later. Indomitable. Upon taking damage, they reduce the unit's health below 40%. It will get an increased defense for 10 seconds. More time the unit takes damage during a short period, the stronger the effect. And this is part of the reason why they're so powerful in melee. One of the biggest counters to them you'd expect to be ranged, but that actually isn't so. And we'll show you that again as well. There is in here a skill that isn't shown and isn't labelled. This skill heals them. Yeah, it does. I've got a great clip later of Imperial Pike Guard walking all over them all, taking them all down to very low health, and then they all just heal back up and destroy the Pike Guard. It's great. So, very interesting. And the typical 10 leadership reduction. So what this does is you, number 1 skill, throw it behind or at the unit. Once it's landed, or even before it's landed, you can hit the 1 key again and charge directly towards where your axe is landed. Anything that gets hit will get a debuff. This one here is you chuck 2 sets of axes, one after the other, and it causes great big damage. By the way, both of these skills are still usable if you don't have any ammunition, but you'll charge in and start doing some just basic slashing damage instead. That's okay, so that's the 2 axe throw one. This is the one where you throw it, and then this one here appears only after you've used the number 1 skill, and that's where you'll run to where your axes are. And sprint, I believe I put a doctrine on them. I don't actually think they have that. Yeah, there's a sprint doctrine. So, let's move on to the next one. The last one, the long-awaited, forgotten, the misplaced, shall we say, the Imperial Bodyguards / Shinji Grenadiers. Now, this is an interesting thing. They recently committed to making the names of the units the same across the servers. It would appear that that's not happening now, and so what? It's just in a name. What's in a name? We all know Falconetti and Matalatori are the same unit. So, clearly we haven't been using them. So, let's have a look here. Do we want to? Yeah, we will. We'll start here. Precise aim, increased accuracy of shots. This unit is quite accurate. It is a little bit more accurate than Tercios. It is not as accurate as Krieg's. And one of the things that they have struggled hitting is people moving left and right laterally. And I'll show you that in the unit testing as well. Exquisite armaments. They've got guns and grenades. Good on them. 10 reduction in leadership for this season only. They are fire resistant, which, as you might expect, most tier 4 and tier 5 units these days are fire resistant. Here's a damage penalty versus heroes. Now, we talked, if you watched the earlier part of the video, the patch notes, you'll see that all firearm infantry now have this. They do 25% less damage to heroes, which is fine by me. So they're very simple. They've got an attack area like every other musket, so you just choose the direction you want them to shoot in, and then you've got throw grenades. They have 2 ammunition bars, 1 ammunition bar for bullets, 1 ammunition bar for grenades. Without any buffs, they can throw 2 grenades before they have to rearm, and they actually have quite a long period of firing, same as Tercios, where they will cause great damage. So here we go. We'll flick through here real quick. Don't forget to hit pause if you want to review some of these. All right. And there we go. There is the stats for this particular unit. The Imperial Bodyguards / Shinji Grenadiers. Alright, well that's the 3 new units. Let's head on over now to our next section. So boys and girls, I've been at it going on nearly 12 hours now, about 11 and a half hours, so I'm pretty darn tired. Please excuse me if I get some of the information wrong, and I'll do my best. So now we're down to the unit testing, something we've all been waiting for, I'm sure. So we're just going to smash a whole bunch of units together. Keep in mind it doesn't really display the real outcomes in a battle where, for example, in a siege battle, you don't have all the space to run around like you do here. Shinji Grenadiers are usually hiding behind other units and protected by heroes and shields and pikes. You don't get that when you're doing these one-on-one testing. So take some of it with a grain of salt, but these are some of the outcomes that we've come up with. And without further ado, let's come along. Well, one more ado. Unfit Chaos, thank you very much for hanging out with me today. About 3.5 hours this unit testing took. Yeah, 3.5 hours. And really appreciate your help with that, sir. I'll put a link to Unfit Chaos's YouTube channel just down here, into the description of my video, and you can check out his ones as well. Let's get going. So here we go. We've got some Shinji Grenadiers and we're going to fight them versus the Outriders. Now you might be thinking, oh my goodness, predetermined outcome, right? Well, you'd probably be right. At this time, this is one of the very first battles we did, and our timing is a little off, and our aiming is a little off on both the grenades and the boom spears. The boomsticks. But, you know, this is not how gunners fight, any kind. They hide behind other units and heroes, right? I love how the dead guys still explode. So here we go. Now we've got Axie Boys versus Grandpas. Now this was a surprising outcome for us. Unfit Chaos is microing his unit. He is using the 1 and 2 abilities. Here we go. As you can see, there's Last Stand. But the healing and the defense buff that this unit gets in the end is going to see it through. Once they're through the shield line, they just absolutely tear to bits the spear and the two-handed swords behind. Quite amazingly so. Cost 2/3 of the unit. I think with a bit of better microing as we start to understand the unit better, the outcome will be different. So here's some Axie boys versus some Jav Cav. I'd put Chaos has been lit on fire there with a firecracker. And as you can see, Axie boys are very, very, very tough. And ordinarily, in even a field battle like this, you wouldn't allow the Outriders to come close to them, right? You'd ride around in circles and let them auto-attack, because they'll just continue to auto-attack as you ride around, even at top speed. So that would be the much better way to play this unit, right? But we're trying to get some outcomes. We're trying to see what happens. Boom. Your little fizzing fuses. Do you see how some of the little fizzing fuses don't end up in an explosion? They just kind of fizzle out. Now here we go. We managed to miss the Berserkers with our Axie throw. We do hit them and do the debuff, the stunning debuff, and it does possibly deny them a Berserk rage. Either way, the Axie boys recover. They do some more Axie throws for the Axie boys, and at the end they're going to beat the Berserkers. Again, once we learn more about this unit, you get better at the micro, and I think we can do better than losing 2/3 of the unit. I think we could possibly even do it losing only half or less. So here's the Grenadiers versus some Armoured Lancers, and it goes pretty much as you might imagine. Like most gunners, they'll stun the cavalry with a shot. And the grenades are very effective, especially like in a siege or something where they're coming down an alleyway. And one thing to remember when you're watching these Shinji Grenadiers throw grenades like this is that they have a quest arc in the game itself, where you do a whole bunch of quests. And one of the rewards that you're going to get is a doctrine that does more stun damage to cavalry and a bigger radius, I believe it is. And that's kind of the outcome that the kind of thing that will change the outcome a bit. These tercios here. Very tough, of course, compared to Shinji Grenadiers, who have about 5,000 hit points compared to about 8,500 for the tercios. And ultimately, even though the Shinjis have the grenades, the cooldown isn't quick enough to get a second one off before the tercios shoot them down. And it's really the tankiness of the tercios that saw them through there. But again, this is not how gunners fight. This is just interesting to bang the two units together. Now, this is an interesting one for me. We're going to micro the paladins. We're going to XV them, which would usually be very strong. But one of the things I've noticed about the Axe Raiders, the Axie boys, is that they do well against shield units because they have high block break. All 3 units this season have high block break. And what happens is the units, as you can see, the paladins are stunned back there. They spend half their time not fighting because they've raised their shield, like this, their block's been broken, and then they're stunned. Right, and that reduces their effectiveness. So Axie boys are better against shields than they are against unshields. Oh, that was harsh. So these are Imperial javelins, and they're the top stun line. Unfortunately, the throw there wasn't microed; it was just a throw, and so it targeted me as the hero. But as you can see, even if that entire volley had hit, it would have made no difference to the outcome whatsoever. Barely damaged the unit. This is Halberdier Sergeants, who I'm not a big fan of whatsoever. But what we'll do is we're going to throw in the jabs, and we're going to time it so that they explode as the cavalry get there, and then all of the unit is stunned and out of brace. And this is a 170 leadership light cavalry unit. Absolutely wrecking them. And again, I can't see a circumstance in which you'd deliberately charge Halberdier Sergeants unless you were forced to, or obviously this has come off quite well for us, but why wouldn't you circle around them using your auto attacks and your explosions? Here we have Imperial Spear Guard. Now, you see here hits them, and you'll notice how they manage to get back in the line after the explosion before the cavalry get there. So he's going to circle around and have another go at that. And this time he comes through, he's going to hit the shield line as the javelins explode, and then just punch right through it. Look how much block break these guys do. There's so many of the shield guys who are always in stun. Now watch how much more effective this attack is. When timed well, your light cavalry unit can punch right through a shield line, like it's not even there. So now the Outriders go into skirmish against the Imperial Spearguard, and just sort of pepper it constantly with these javelins and these explosions, and it just whittles the unit down so quickly. They just can't keep up. They cannot keep up with the damage that's being done to them. You know, we're talking again 170 leadership light cavalry unit, the Outriders. So quite excited for these. Definitely going to be better in not siege battle. Definitely going to be better in field battle over the sieges. We managed to miss the throw there, mistime it, but it's not actually going to make a difference, because even if that had hit, the Palace Guard absolutely, utterly destroy the Axie boys, and they're the quickest destruction of the Axie boys that we tested. So here the Outriders managed to avoid the pikes. Now again, these guys would normally circle around the pikes and just continually bombard them, but we're looking for a result, right? So we're going to try and drive them all the way through the pikes and see what happens. Throw some more bombs at them. And had we not stuck around a melee, which is inadvisable for any cavalry against pikes, they'd still be all around now and still be chucking javelins in. And look how much damage they're doing just with the auto attacks. Watch when they charge back in. The ammunition, see how the ammunition when they charge goes back up to full? It's very, very hard to run out of ammunition with these guys. Go back and rewind that and watch it again. The ammunition bar goes from this to this as soon as they charge. Still too close to the Shinji Grenadiers here. But watch this, they've got very high block break as well, as you'll see from the veteran lines. But see how the shields and the grandpas there are being knocked into stun? Because the block break on this unit is great. No, without the block break, they'd just be peppering the front of the unit. Here we go, we're going to test the bomb on a no last stand. As you can see, it knocked them all around a bit. You can get back up again faster by hitting one, but it does a little bit of damage. But look what happens when you use last stand on the grenades. So the biggest thing that happens is absolutely nothing. Not a thing. Not a single point of damage. Just dead. Just not dead. Not dead at all. Here we go. They're around facing the wrong way now. So if you throw grenades into the back of them, you'll wipe the unit. So how different is that, right? How much different is that? Here we go, we've got some Outriders now, and we're fighting Iron Cap Bow Riders, I believe. Yes. And as you might expect, Outriders are, a whole tier higher. They're a good 60 leadership more, and they deal with these Iron Cap Bow Riders very easily. I've never been a fan of the Bow Riders. They're just a bit, well, naff, really, aren't they? I know a lot of people love them, and more power to you if you enjoy playing them, but I'm just not a big fan of the Iron Caps myself, and this is another reason why. Stand your ground. Dead Bow Riders. So next we have Azaps. Azaps taking a hail of fire and then a charge from the Axie boys. Watch what happens. We go into Counter-Strike. But the thing about Counter-Strike is it doesn't protect against ranged shots. And part of the damage that the Axie boys do in melee is that they do a double shot ranged attack. And of course that can't be blocked. So even by the time we finish up with the Counter-Strike and go into On-Watch, which would normally be utterly devastating, if you've ever used Azaps you'll be aware of that, they can't kill them. This test here was just simply to see how long can Iron Reapers stand before they get shot and killed by the Shinji Grenadiers. Now what we found is this is doing about 1,000 to 1,200 odd damage, I believe it was, when they're getting shot in the front. But as soon as they've been turned around, they're doing 2,500 per shot to the Reapers. And as you can imagine, that doesn't lead to a long life. The Shinjis are accurate and they fire quickly. So here we go. What happens when you charge Outriders into Modao, even when they're exploded? Well, that went pretty much exactly as we were expecting when we tested this. Something like small and squishy being hit by something like a train. So how long can Modao withstand the shots of the Shinjis. Turns out, pretty good actually. The mode out with their, well, I don't know, just innate toughness. I mean, the grenade hurts, right? Because they don't have a shield. But actually, they can take quite a bit of this musket fire without worrying too much about it. Now we've got X-Raiders versus Condos. X-Raiders miss with their shot. They charge through. Notice how they can charge through units, which means that you can go through one unit into another one behind. And by the time the Condos get their shock attack on, it's too late, because the X-Raiders are healing, self-healing, and they've already got their defensive stack bonus. And they just very quickly cut through what is left of the Condos. So, don't fight X-Raiders with Condos, fight them with Palace Guard. Here we go, we're going to dodge with the Cylindars, and we're going to fight the Axie boys now. You usually use a hero to CC them, but they actually don't need them. Because, as we know about Cylindars, they do immediate and massive damage, giving the enemy X-Raiders absolutely no time whatsoever to react, to heal over time, and to build up stacks of defense. Here we go again, we're going to throw over the Imperial Pike Guard, and we're going to charge through. This is quite an interesting one, how this turns out. Watch this. The Axie boys get hit by the advance. Watch their health, bottom left. It's getting absolutely smashed. But by the time it gets down this low, they've already started healing. So while all of them went down into the red probably at one point before they started healing back, by the time they got up again, they got no problems whatsoever. UC puts them in brace, which was the wrong call. The brace definitely did them no favours. However, here's an opportunity where they will now advance, even though some of them have got knocked down by the chainy Axie things. And the outcome of this is going to be a little bit different, simply because we're not going to put the Imperial Pike Guard into brace. We're going to allow them to auto-attack. And this will do more damage. It's not going to be enough to save the Imperial Pike Guard. The Axie boys will still kill them. But at the end of the day, it does more damage if you're not in brace, which is kind of normal, I found, for the Pike Guard. Alright, this was an interesting one. This is the Zerigs. Zerigs with the knockdown versus Axie boys. They take a full hit, they get charged through and debuffed. Axie boys turn around, do their double axe shot. And that sets the stage for the rest of what's going to happen here. You will see some of the Axie boys getting knocked down, but they get up again. You're never going to keep them down. And again, when the double shot axe comes off cooldown, it does massive, massive damage. And it will do that to heroes too. We'll show you real soon how beautiful it can be for heroes. And by the time the Axie boys come out of it, they've lost about half the unit. So that's one of the better results we've had, and quite surprising. We expected the Axie boys to absolutely destroy the Zerigs, but their knockdown, of course, strong. Now here's something that surprised us. Here's Outriders charging the front of a 40 Brachio unit. Watch the timing, explosion happens, and they go dead. In this charge, Unfit Chaos lost 2 or 3, I believe, of his guys, but nothing on the initial charge, and you've lost 2/3 of the unit of 40 Brachios, with the rest being seriously injured. This is the remainder of an axe unit, only half an axe unit, fighting a short sword. Now this short sword does not have iron sides, because the PTR server automatically chooses your skills for you, and we forgot to change it. But he's not going to last long, as you can imagine, even against half a unit of axe boys, especially when they get out the throw. Splat. We do have another clip soon of an iron-sided short sword. So we wanted to make sure that that Forte Brachio thing wasn't a fluke. UC was quite excited about this, and the timing's a little bit less off on this one, and you'll notice that we still have 2/3 of the unit left alive, and UC lost a couple of them. But the reality is that you can still take out a unit of 40 Brachios with the Outriders in the front. So this time it's my turn. Those of you who watch my channel know I'm not a Cav player, so here we go. My timing is a little off. Some of those pikes are still up when we hit it. We lose half the unit, but the 40s also lose half the unit. You've got to be relatively close by the time you throw the javelins, wait for the explosion, get stuck in. So we're testing here Imperial Archers shooting into the Axe Boys. And Imperial Archers will now start doing bodkins. But watch what happens with their health bottom left. Yeah. Yeah. Just standing still, absorbing Imperial Archer bodkin fire. Why not? Why not? I mean, why shouldn't everyone be able to do that? Of course, eventually they'll be able to whittle away, but in a battle, imagine how much range fire they can take in a giant melee, where they're not being the focus of it generally. Here we go. This is X-Raiders versus a Ironsides short sword. We're using this to try and debuff him. Doesn't work, or it does work. There we go. He's got the thing going on around him. Maybe that's the Ironsides. But as soon as their axes are back up again, their double shot axes, it's very hard to avoid them. So you could come in, you could knock them down and retreat, but there's no way a short sword could dive into this ranged unit and kill them. It's just not possible. We'll test the longsword soon too. Here we go. We're still not fully convinced that it wasn't a fluke that we can do this. So here we go, and that's much better timing. UC gets that one perfectly this time. Lost 2/3 of the unit, and there were no casualties to the cavalry. So here we go. This is the Axie Boys versus Javelin Sergeants. This is pretty. Anyone who uses Javelin Sergeants can be fairly confident that they know how this is going to go. The Axe Boys, they lose none. Javelin Sergeants, wiped out, just gone. The end. What have we got here? Oh, we've got a Maul versus Axe Boys. And we're just going to run through him so we can avoid his spin to win. Turn around, double shot him with the axes. So if you're a Maul player, first of all, you're a terrible person. Second of all, good luck trying to hit this unit with your cheesy skills. This is Shield Maidens, and this surprised us quite a bit, this. So we did the standard skill cycle of the Shield Maidens, of starting off in the defensive formation, switching to the swords, double striking, counter-charging, and then switching back into the defensive formation. Unfortunately, I muck it up, and I face them the wrong way, but turns out it didn't really matter. Didn't really matter. We lost one Shield Maiden and killed the entire unit of Axie Boys, and given the outcomes of the battles we've had so far, that's quite impressive from the Shield Maidens. Shield Maidens just became a little bit more meta. This is what happens when the Axe Boy charged the Modau, and the Modau counter-charged them. Delete. Gone. Dead. So, don't charge Modau with your Axie Boys. So this here we're testing how good are the Shinji Grenadiers at shooting against a longsword who's holding a point or trying to grab their attention. And you'll see Unfit Chaos has got his shield up, and as long as he's moving left and right, he's absolutely fine. But if he's moving directly towards or directly away, or not moving at all, the damage starts stacking up pretty much immediately. Just like the Tercios, these guys are not great at shooting laterally moving targets. Kriegsrats are much better, of course, but watch this. As soon as that happens, they start shooting him again, and his shield is knocked down because he's on the ground, and that came very, very close to killing him. Here we go, we've got some Axie Boys at long range versus some Halberdier Sergeants. Into a brace unit of Halberds? No problem for these boys, because they get all the way down on their health, and then they start healing up again, and they get defensive stacks, and they just cut through, you know. We'll just wait till that comes off cooldown, and then belt them with a couple more axes. And that is the end of the Halberdier Sergeants. Boom. Death. Death in the form of edge-sharpened metal. This is Armigers versus the Outriders. Now this one quite surprised me. If you were playing this in a field battle, you would not go anywhere near the Armigers with this unit, right? You'd skirt around the outside, let them auto-attack, throw some of the explodey bombs when it was possible. But frontally, this surprised me a lot. If you're good with your micro, and you hit your shots with your flamey death sticks, you're going to come out equal with the Armigers. 170 leadership Outriders versus what, 265 I think for the Armigers. Boom. It comes out with 2 or 3 units left each. Now we have Axe Boys versus Longsword Point Hold. You see the wiggle left and right, the patented longsword shuffle? It does make most of the shots hit. They're not good at hitting moving targets either. But as soon as you engage here, even though you do the Paladin for minus 15% armor and then start smashing them with your with Valor, they're going to immediately start to heal. And they heal, as soon as they start to heal, they can heal faster than you can do the damage. And that's the end. So boys and girls, that's all we have time for today. I hope you learned something new, or you just enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for coming to my channel.